If you've ever looked at someone's edit and wondered, how on earth did they do that? Then you're in luck. In this lesson, I'm going to show you how I analyze any creative edit and recreate it. Of course, sometimes there are edits that are only possible in super advanced softwares like After Effects, but by analyzing how they made it, you can pretty easily determine whether it's possible on mobile with the core concepts that you learned. The way that I like to do it is either by downloading the video directly from TikTok or by screen recording the video. Once I have it on my camera roll, I scroll through the part of the transition frame by frame to see how they did it and where it changed. I think it's easier to show you this than to tell you, so let me show you through a few examples. Alright, so I have downloaded all these clips to see how they make their transition. So this one is one where she blows the candles. And you can see that if you go slow, she transitions right when her face wipes over the screen. Now, I wouldn't say this is like the smoothest transition possible, but because the speed was so fast, like this, it looks pretty good. And she's probably speed ramped it so that the motion looks so consistent. She might have also matched her head to make sure that it's the exact same height and the size. So that's how she made this transition. Next, let's look at this because this looks quite complex. So when you first look at it, you'll be like, wow, how did he make so many transitions with his head turn? So if you break it down, you see first you need one clip where your head is going sideways. And then you need a horizontal clip where your head is coming like this. And then actually, this is upside down. So what you can do is just turn your phone upside down and you'll be able to see what clip you need to record with what hand as well. So this first one is his right hand and his head is turning to his right shoulder. This also is his right hand and his head is turning from his left shoulder to the center. So if you just flip your phone over, you'll be able to see it. And so now you can see what each clip is made up of, and you'll be able to film them individually to piece together this really cool clock motion transition. And notice how when he comes up, he repeats this. So this is probably just a boomerang right here. And then he repeats it, but with sunglasses on. And then here, when he comes up, he also turns his head and has some movement on the camera as well. This movement probably helps to make the transition more smooth where he turns his head. So now you can see he turns his head and he's going to turn up. Now this is a low angle. When he turns up, it is a high angle. So this is that transition. This is a very simple tilt your head up transition. You start with a low angle and then you go with a high angle and you tilt up. Now it's a simple turn head transition, but he has his sunnies down a little. So the point of having his sunnies down a little here is interesting because then in the next shot, he actually has his hand on his sunnies and then he'll touch it and have it disappear. So my guess is this is just one still clip and he added an effect in post editing, like a shake effect, so that it's less obvious that he maybe didn't match it perfectly. So you can see like, oh, his sunglasses are off, right? So let's go to the back. When you look at this real time, it looks very complex and really hard to recreate. But when you break it down shot by shot, it's just a lot of little clips that all connect together. And if you take note of his filming angle, for example, this is eye level with a little bit of camera motion. This is low angle and still. And then this is the exact same clip, but you just repeat the motion of tapping your temple. And this is just color change. And now he's going to go into his hand like this. And then what he did here is it comes back out of his backside and it goes into his leg, which he transitions out again, right? And then transition back again and then flip it upwards. And then this knee comes out of his hand and his hand continues this circular motion. So you can see that, for example, this part requires a videographer to help him. He probably most likely this is hard to do himself. I mean, he could, but maybe a videographer helped him. It looks like he actually did it himself because you can see him crouching over. And so then he continues this spinning motion to his hand and then punches a wall and does this exact same motion in a different wall. Looks at the camera. And that's it. So when you look at it all together, it's so fast and so difficult, but when you break it down really, really slow, you'll notice that a lot of the clips are just the motion continue, but then let's say it's flipped upside down, etc. So let's look at it real time. Okay, very cool. Now you know all of the clips that you need in order to make the same transition. Next, let's take a look at this reel where the cherries fall off of her dress. So first, obviously, she'll need a dress with cherries on it and then a dress almost the same shape without cherries on it. And so let's look at the part where the cherries fall off. First of all, her position is almost exactly the same, very, very minor difference, but almost not noticeable. And notice how she chose to transition right when she's dropping down. And so it's the most motion in the frame, and that's why she chose this part to transition. So right when she's squatting, so one thing I want you to look at is actually how the cherries, you notice how it's a little see-through here. And so what I think she did is she added a mask which expanded as the cherries fall out, as you can see here. And now you can see that the mask has expanded to the side of the frame. And the purpose of this is most likely because you cannot control, so she's going to film this by someone throwing cherries on her, right? But you cannot control, how the cherries are thrown so much. And so when she's throwing it at her, I'm guessing that right around her shoulder, there's a lot of cherries right around here. And she has to add a mask to mask them out, and she feathered it so that it looks more natural, so they aren't like some half cherries cut off. And then she expanded the mask. And then she expanded the mask to make it look like the cherries fell off in this flow, in this sort of progression, but really it was thrown on her. So that's a very smooth little trick that she added into her video here. Next, this is a really, really smooth transition. And I was amazed how smooth it was, so I downloaded it and had a look. And ultimately what she did was she always looked up at the same angle. She was always in the center, and she just stood in the exact same spot and did the same spin, and she matched her eyes and her hair too. So you can see here how her hair and her eyes match well. You can see the gradient between the two, so she blended the two clips. And then that's how she got this really smooth transition. It may look so precise, but really it's a lot simpler than you think when you break it down and replay it in slow motion. This one also was a transition that really shocked me in terms of how smooth it was. And so I had to screen record it to see if there was anything special. But based on this, honestly, I don't think there is. I think she just made sure her hair was exactly the same. Notice how even the length of her hair that's falling on her face, the shape of it, everything is exactly the same. And then she just made sure to make the motion exactly the same. However, you will notice that her little pinky is different, but it doesn't matter so much because the thing that is obstructing her face, the pink powder, helps to mask it and it doesn't look as obvious, right? And so she blended the two clips together. And also because her lips are the part that changed the most, from nude lips to red lips. And so that's the part that she covered up. And so this was a very seamless transition. Next, I wanted to see how this guy did this really smooth motion going in from his from his selfie video into like a motion video. And so if you slow it down here, he goes down into the floor, and then he blends this clip with the next clip where it's also going up from a floor, and then he continues this motion, you know, whatever camera movement he's doing here. So let's look at it again. So because it is sped up, you can barely notice it, but when you slow it down, this is how you know like what the motion is that he used and how he blends them together. Lastly, I want to show you one of my examples. So this is really simple in terms of a transition, but it looks pretty seamless. So I'm going to show you the transition happens right here. So if you look at my outfit, it is white with a beige short. Right when this is coming this way, I change into this outfit. So really, I didn't have to do any complicated edits. It's just trimming the clips to the right part and putting them one after the other in the timeline, and you get this really seamless transition. And I'm looking to my right into my, I'm going from looking at my right to looking at my left. So that is a transition, and you can continue this. You see the purple? Right when it covers my face, this is when I trim the clips. And I just make sure to continue the motion. So you can see how this, and same here. So boop, and then this is the part where it changes. So really you can tell now that this is nothing complex. It's really just one clip after the other and cut off at the right place. And then you can also see here, if you look carefully and slowly, as I wipe through with a black jacket, I have Lucy wipe her hands through. So this slowly looks really jarring, but if you play it fast, you won't really be able to notice exactly what they used to wipe it. So that's how you analyze any video, by slowing it down a lot, looking at it frame by frame to understand how to break down each scene and each frame and what type of motion you have to do in order to achieve the same results.